A lot of times when you're looking up how to tell if one has depression, you get a lot of indicators if you have depression, which is all well and good, but one of the major things about depression is it makes you not want to like seek help or anything. And so something that is very helpful is for people to know when someone else has it so they can come alongside them. And that's what this video is for. I want to be clear on a few things to start. One, we do not know that much about mental illness in the first place, so it's like a relatively new thing. It's not as easy as saying like, oh, they ate a peanut and now they're breaking out in hives, so they must be allergic to peanuts, let's give them a Benadryl. It is more like, oh, these are some symptoms that usually correspond with this thing, and here are a variety of ways that sometimes help and sometimes don't. So this is not the end-all be-all, and hopefully 20 years from now people will look back on this and be like, wow, we didn't know anything, because there's so much more to learn. Additionally, unless you're a medical professional, in which case maybe don't watch this video, you're not going to learn anything, you do not have the authority to diagnose a person. And you should never tell them, well, I think that you have XYZ, and like push that if that's not something that they feel is true. It doesn't actually matter whether it is true or not, you're being a jerk either way. Third, depression is more common than you might think. If you are in a room with 20 people, statistically 3 of them either have major depression or have dealt with it in the past. So this is something that you should equip yourself to deal with, even if you don't think this is relevant to you unless you're only friends with 15 people. This is going to help you at some point. One big thing is a loss of interest or involvement in activities, especially if they're things a person's normally really passionate about. If someone is like working on projects and then just kind of like isn't feeling it anymore or isn't excited about it. If someone stops coming to class, that's a huge indicator. So if you see someone who's usually involved in like sports and does a lot of other activities and like goes to seminars and theater performances and whatever, if that's something that they're normally like really into and is a part of their schedule in life, and you've noticed that kind of doesn't happen anymore, that might be an indicator that someone has depression. Something that I have noticed is a lot of times when I'm depressed, people ask me if I'm bored because I like drag myself to things and I don't care about them and I just feel miserable and awful. And so like my face is very like, ugh. And it just looks as if I'm like not having a good time and not interested, which to be fair, I'm not, but it's not just because I'm not interested or don't care about the people around me and the things that I'm doing, it's because there is like something going on in my brain that like those like pleasure circuits that usually make me enjoy things aren't quite making that connection. Another effect of like the mood thing that you can see on the outside is whether someone is like more easily frustrated and like angry and involved in reckless behavior. If there's something that normally would just kind of roll off their back, but they get like really agitated by it, or more frustrated with things that are normally like, oh, this is annoying, but I can do this, like homework and assignments and stuff, or work, or friends, or significant others, that can be a symptom of depression. And the recklessness is often you don't really feel any positive things, and so you often like go to reach some sort of feeling, whether that's like alcohol or substance abuse or doing like super risky behaviors or like getting involved in different social groups where you're gonna feel like more of a significant person. A lot of times people don't know they're doing this. I have done this. It looks a little different than like going out and partying for my little nerdy self, but I have done this and then later realized, oh my gosh, that was just me trying to feel again. Another thing is imbalance. Humans are like carefully calibrated to get the right amount of like temperature and water and all of these other things, and often depression goes either too much of one thing or too little of one thing. Sleep is a big one. If someone is like waking up and just can't fall back asleep, or if they're way oversleeping, or if they have insomnia, if there's something where they normally are doing pretty well sleep-wise and then something changes, I often find myself sleeping through things when I am depressed. Even if I set an alarm, even if I said I would be somewhere, I just like wake up 2 hours later and I'm like, oh my gosh, what year is it? But again, it's not just sleeping too much that can be a symptom of depression. It can also be sleeping too little. Any time that something was pretty stable and then went to be unstable, that is a cause for concern, whether it's depression or not. Food is a big one too. If someone has completely lost their appetite and just like isn't interested in eating, one, that could be an eating disorder, and I do not have the expertise to help you with that one. Please go find other resources. Or it can be that part of their brain that's like, yes, food, a good thing, I need this for health, has just like shut off. Or it can be like food, that thing that I love, I absolutely need to eat more of that because I don't feel anything else, so like I might as well just keep eating food, and that does something. I'm not the best person to give advice on dealing with those kinds of things because there's a lot of that wrapped up with like body image and weight and food and things like that. So I would encourage you to find other resources to try and figure out how to start that conversation. In the meantime, if as I was talking you were kind of thinking of a certain person or certain people that you might have concerns for, you can call the depression hotline. They have professionals who are trained to help you with this, who are not a person on a flat screen that can't respond to you. There's also a crisis text line if phone is really not something you're super comfortable with, that either you, while observing someone in some sort of crisis or someone who is in some sort of crisis can use. You can use it for basically anything. It's kind of like an emergency room in which they like serve the most urgent cases first, so you never have to worry about like, oh, am I taking someone else's spot sort of a thing. Overall, please be willing to be open about this kind of thing, whether it's something you personally deal with or not. Know that there are people around you who definitely deal with this, so be sensitive in like the jokes that you make and things like that. And if you ever see someone who's like exhibiting some of these behaviors and you are close enough to them to kind of talk to them about that, I would suggest you do that. And I will post the video of the ways that you can do that right here. I will see you then.